would level that hollow where that village was. We smoothed that right over. So we covered that village right over. And then we mixed cement and made the runways, extended the Skytac runways. And we'd work all day so you couldn't see the work anymore. And then they'd take us back again. We get 1 can of rice a day over there. And then they had a sweet seed, a small brown seed, I don't know what it was. They gave us so much of that, and then we'd get a small dish of that, like a gruel or something. And that was sweet. We looked to get that stuff. And big men suffered more than small men, because it's like a truck or a car. If you have a big car, you're going to use more gas. So a big man needs more. So you could see these big men, 200 pounds and up, they didn't last too long. Yeah, they went first. Yeah. Yeah.
So this is North Point Camp today. It's a park. No plaque or anything, no indication of what had happened there 75 years ago. That's what it looks like today. It looks nothing like it looked like then. He was mentioning that they were ferried back and forth there. They basically worked with a shovel. They had like a makeshift kind of a railway kind of a thing with basically an upside down pyramid that they would shovel. They would fill this thing and ride it down the hill, dump it, and then bring it back up. Just keep doing that, repeat essentially. That's today. Skytac Airport is actually a cruise ship terminal, but back in 1941, 42, sorry, no, 42, the runway ran that way. There used to be a hill, and that's the hill that he was mentioning that they removed by hand. And they would work there from essentially from sun up to sundown. People were saying that their skin would just, like almost like a glove, your skin would just peel right off there. Your skin was just raw from shoveling. So North Point is here. Got Skytac right there, so they would ferry back and forth. And a few months later, they ended up sending them back to Sham Shui Po, their original barracks. So they come off the island and they go to a place called Sham Shui Po, their original barracks. Not at all in the same condition that they were when they left them there. Windows are broken, busted, and everything that could be stolen was stolen, and it was bare bones. Here's a sketch that was done by one of the Canadian POWs of Sham Shui Po. Again, we're going to just go to Mr. Ross here for a second.
I had malaria, and I had dysentery, and I had all them berries and pains and aches. You know, it was universal, like everybody. You expected to have them. But there were certain people who would take very much worse than others. A real agony. I had very, but I never suffered like some of them men. You know, I knew them before the war, and I knew them during the war, and I know they weren't scheming. And finally their toes would turn under and twist down, and they had to walk by throwing their foot that way so the toes wouldn't hit, try and make it a little flat. And they wouldn't be able to walk. I know they decided that the Japs decided it was really something bad, so they decided to take the worst ones over to Bowen Road. Now this is from Sham Shui Po. So they would take a certain number. So they picked out the worst ones, and they made us take them out and put them all down right by the dock in Chamchapeau. And they called it the Bamboo Pier. Well, it was just a temporary pier. Right? So we put them all down there, about maybe 20, maybe 19 or 20. So then when the little ferry came in to pick these men up, the Japs guards would all stand around there. So they just yelled at them, "Get on that boat," you know, in Japanese, of course. So the ones that could walk made their feet and stumbled and fell and made for to get on the boat, because the Japs were poking at them with their bayonets and that. And there was a good friend of mine. They all got up and he couldn't get up. He got up partly and he fell down. So I said to myself, they're going to kill him there. They're going to force him to get up and he can't. They'll bayonet him or shoot him. So we had orders then to address the guards. The Japs made us all move back. Maybe from that wall to the other wall, away from them. So I turned back and I went back. And I took my friend up. And I carried him on the boat. I wasn't supposed to do that. And they were yelling at me, and I didn't know what they were saying, of course. Anyway, I took him on the boat, and I put him on the boat. And he wanted me to stay with him. He said, "Don't leave me here." But I said, "I can't. I've got to get off here quick." So I turned to go back. And when I turned to go back, then they were really screaming at me. So I thought they were going to shoot me in the back. So I was tense, I suppose. I walked right past the guards and walked right back to our own group. And there wasn't a shot fired. And I thought I'd never see him again. Anyway, he survived.
Canadian soldiers died as POWs between January 1st, 1942 and April 1st, 1943, vast majority of which were preventable. They died of things like diphtheria, diseases like beriberi, diseases that are easily treated. And it's the medicines were available. They were just playing games. This is Chamchapeau today. The only sign that the Canadians were there, that little sign right there under those trees. Two maple trees planted on December 5th December 1991 in honor of our Canadian comrades who paid the supreme sacrifice, perished in prison camps, have since died as a result of the suffering inflicted. 1941, 1945, we will never forget. Oops. Okay, this is Saiwan Cemetery. This is where the vast majority of the ones who died in Hong Kong as prisoners of war are buried. Canadians are buried essentially down at the bottom of the hill where you see the cross. Lindsay R. Mann and Maxwell Alistair Mann, buried side by side.
Lindsay Mann was my grandmother's brother who was there also.
There you go. There you go. They died as prisoners of war. Actually, before we go there, oops, lost control here. So, while the epidemics are going on and prisoners of war are dying at a very high rate. The Japanese sort of started to panic there at one point. So one of the things that was decided is that we're going to take the healthiest POWs, the healthiest POWs, and send them to Japan. The ones that were too sick to make the trip stayed in Hong Kong. The idea, well, this is speculation from not just myself but other people there, is that they didn't want to bring in a bunch of diseases either into Japan. So there was a test, if you will, there, a fitness test. And Mr. Ross is going to talk about the trip to Japan. Might as well let him talk about it.
They stretched the wire up maybe this high, and they would make you run and jump over this wire. And if you could run to that wire and jump over it, and then they call out to you and tell you to keep on going. So they'd make you go a little further, and then they would let us all gather there. And that's where they took us from there to the boat to go to Japan. So they marched us down after night, put us on the boat after it was dark, because all blackout then by this time. Yeah, so they had a narrow opening in the deck, and they had a wall about this high, right along like this. So as you were coming down one ahead of the other, and this was a black hole in the floor, in the deck, there was a Jap which spoke good English on either side. And he'd grab you by the arm and said, be careful, step ahead then. But when you stepped ahead, there was no ladder. So you went head first through that hole. And then the next guy was the same thing. You just stepped on in mid-air, so you went down in the bottom of the boat to the deck down below. There was nothing down there, just a place they went, and there weren't a place for us all to lie down. So if someone got up to go, so they had a urinal along there, to go there if you want to go to the bathroom. And when you come back, someone else had laid in your spot. You had to stay up till someone else went, and then you would take their place. So there wasn't space for us all to lie down. But they had segregated us out because they didn't want. That was one reason to go to Japan, because they couldn't allow diseases to get out of hand in Japan, because it would be bad for their army and all the services. So that way you stood a better chance going to Japan, my way of thinking. A lot of the guys would be praying while the Americans sank the boat that went a month or so before. They'll torpedo this boat and we'll all drown or be killed with the explosion in us down in the hole. So some would be praying for the Americans to get it over with, for to hit the boat, torpedo it. And others would be praying for them not to hit it. So it was 50-50. Anyway, they didn't hit that boat. And I got right to Nagasaki.
Good character, Mr. Ross. World of respect for him. By the way, the Tatsuda Maru, that's the name of the boat that they were on, the ship that they were on. The Tatsuda Maru was sunk about a few months later by the Americans. So, that's it there. Tatsuda Maru. This is Omine prison camp in Japan. It was a coal mine, and the guys, the prisoners that were in this particular camp worked as coal miners. The Canadians were basically spread out in a bunch of different camps, pretty much all over the island. They were used as slave laborers, coal miners in this instance, some of them as stevedores, working on docks, working in shipbuilding, railway type work, that kind of thing. Again, same conditions, under malnourished, not undernourished, malnourished, physical, psychological abuse, that kind of stuff. So it's a miserable experience. Again,
The Jap bosses would wrap their lunch in newspapers. They had a little paper about this square, and only 4 or 5 sheets, I suppose. So we had a fellow in the camp who could interpret the Japanese language to Chinese and then to English. So we'd guard him well and put him in this corner and made sure that he had lots of guards, that he couldn't be surprised while he'd translate. So he would just translate the parts that we wanted to find out any news, eh? And they would have little numbers here and there along the border once in a while. So if you could find that, if you knew something, and some of them did, about geography, you could trace where this little map was quite liable to be made, eh? And that day that we were caught, after he asked me, "Why did you make the map?" Well, I said I made it because I don't want to stay here any longer. I want to know where I'm going pretty soon. This war will soon be over. I told him right up. The way